Hey everybody, a really quick note from future Sammy. We are going to be referencing a podcast episode in this about your deck as a resource multiple times. So a little sneak peek to the future and what to expect. So when you hear that, you've not heard the podcast yet, it will be out soon. And now let's get to today's episode. Hi everybody, and welcome to the Harry Potter Trading Card Game Podcast. My name is Sammy.
I'm Huamin.
And
And
today we are going to talk about the recent tournament, and we have a guest on who played in the tournament. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, I am Griffin, and I played the Moody deck. I got second place.
Yes, and we're excited to hear how that went. And you're actually also working on building out a play platform. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, I'll just say that I've recently been able to put more time towards it, and there will be an update around Christmas, New Year's. So
That's
look
awesome.
forward to that.
And you just posted, I think, last night or sometime yesterday in our Discord with suggestions for one of the visuals on it. So you get a lot of feedback from people who play the game, which is also really cool.
Yeah, I often look for opinions, feedback, trying to get ideas, whatever the community can provide, I want to put in there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So if you're looking to have some opinions or feedback that you'd like to see in a platform, come join our Discord and talk to Griffin.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, no, we're all really excited for this, and it's been cool to watch the progress and see like the steps you've been taking and whatnot. So thank you for doing that. That's awesome. But yeah, so let's dive into talking about this tournament. So this was a regular tournament for us. We had 8 players and a variety of decks that were being played. So yeah, let's just kind of run through some of the decks and starters real quick then, I guess. Harry, Young Marauder, who was the 8th, and that was a Marauder deck. It was cool to see Marauders in the tournament. It was just the typical Marauder stuff, confronting black and all of their character creatures and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely, I think a little light on interaction with your opponent. Kind of just mostly wanted to do its own thing and then probably play Faux Glass and be like, I keep passing my turn and then you're going to die to confronting black.
It did seem that way, almost like it was just kind of racing to get to the end, which that's one way to play. You can play super aggro.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's not like a bad way to play. Just I think I would go a little bit more of like a control-y shell with Marauders rather than kind of just search Marauder, jam every card in.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think I would agree, because trying to get to, like 9 power, getting that high without having that much removal or interaction can be very challenging. There was a good amount of removal or hate pieces in the sideboard, though, so I felt it was very reactive in that regard.
Yeah, maybe it's like I don't know what I'm playing against, so I'm just going to board in all the good removal pieces against you in the second game and the third game and hope it goes better.
Yeah, the side does have like anti-item, spell, and adventure stuff. So it definitely has like all of those components.
And creature. Can't forget drawing the sword.
Oh my God, yep. And drawing the sword. Yeah, I totally just read right over that. One of the best cards.
Yeah, it's got anti-everything.
Yeah, so that deck was really cool. Next was my deck, which was not great, and it was a mono charms item deck. It just wasn't fantastic. I wanted to put stuff in it, but I did not do enough homework beforehand, so it did fine, but it was not great.
What was that message that you sent me? Like, man, I totally forgot to like submit a deck, so I just grabbed the first one I saw.
Literally the 11th hour, I'm just like, I gotta pick a deck and I just gotta go. And I thought about doing my last tournament deck, but I've only changed like 3 cards from it. And I'm like, I wanted to do something different. So I chose this one. It wasn't great. Y'all can look at the deck list online if you want to, but they could be improved in many, many ways.
There's a lot of 1s of and 2 ofs in that deck, and I found that surprising when I was looking over it.
There's no real way to like do a toolboxy thing, I guess.
No, the goal was to hopefully just draw into items and do damage with Arthur. The deck was not great. My last deck, I put so much thought into. This deck was like, is it blue? Is it an item? Does it do item stuff? If it's a spell, sure, let's just go with it. So
I see.
It's rough. Yeah, rough.
Okay. I sure do like the strategy of just hope and pray that you draw the right things.
That's exactly what it was. That strategy did not work. So to people who want to do that in the future, don't do that. Not good.
Maybe you just didn't hope and pray hard enough.
Probably
put that
not.
out there.
Just didn't believe in the heart of the cards.
That's exactly, yes. I will say the one thing, and then we can move on to the next one, is I started Arthur and not Draco because I was nervous of Faux Glass, Azkaban, and just those cards that really slow you down and stop you from playing cards. And I'm thinking if I have Arthur as my starting wizard, I can just always do damage and I won't be stopped from playing cards. So that's why I started Arthur over Draco, though Draco is probably the better choice. So that was kind of my thought process.
Also, one of like the biggest Draco hate pieces was printed in Quidditch World
Exactly.
Finals, Omnioculars. Kind
Yeah.
of good against all action granting characters.
Which is also why I was like, I don't want to play Draco. And then Arthur just wasn't enough. But
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever start Arthur, but you know, you
I
do
will
what you
do it
do.
again. Yes, I will do it again, just because.
For sure.
Anyway, there was a much better and more interesting deck in sixth place, and that was an Armando Dippet deck that did the Quidditch team thing with Oliver Wood. So normally we see some other starter not Dippet with this kind of deck. And when the deck started, I saw Dippet and I thought, oh, we're going to play Slytherin tribal stuff or Gryffindor stuff. And then they played Quidditch team stuff and I was totally thrown for a loop, but it was cool.
Yeah, I played this versus the tournament as well, and I had the same reaction where it was Dip It, and I was also expecting Slytherin or
Exactly.
something else, and it was all of a sudden Quidditch Legend, Quidditch, and I'm like, what is happening here?
Yes.
Though basically, or every Quidditch character except for the ones in Quidditch World Finals, which I don't think they were running.
No.
They have 0 of the Quidditch World Final peoples. Probably because they're not house cards.
Exactly.
And Dippet needs house cards. Yeah, a deck that also is very interested in doing its own thing, just playing out their Quidditch cards and then winning the game.
I didn't know what to do to stop it. And Charms, Mono Charms is pretty bad at stopping that deck, just stopping characters in general. So I just kind of sat there and I was like, oh, I'm going to try to race you. And during game 2, I did race and I got 1 card away and then I lost. That was the only way I really had to combat that deck was to go faster and I couldn't go fast enough.
You could have just drawn your 1 copy of Imperious Curse.
Yeah, well, so I did one of the games, and then I think that they removed it maybe, or something happened. I couldn't play because of the lesson count, or something came up.
Yeah, because they don't actually have anything that can remove it, I think. Exactly 0 cards. Maybe they got discarded with Marcus Flint.
Possibly, yeah.
Derek and Bull hate you, so you can get the
Yeah.
lesson count.
It was just rough. Yeah. It was a cool deck, though. I like somebody who took a starter that we, like, Griffin and I both were like, oh, this is going to be Slytherin Tribal or whatever. And, like, they just flipped that on its head and then did it with Quidditch, too. And you all know I love Quidditch stuff. So, like, that was just really cool to see somebody flip a starter on its head in a color that nobody was expecting to be with that starter, and then to actually like do stuff with it. It was just really cool. Even though it didn't win, it was just cool.
Also, that like Dippet is seeing play. That's also cool.
Yeah.
One of the cards that we changed with an errata, hopefully making him more playable. Maybe it worked.
I mean, somebody brought him to a tournament, so something worked, even if he didn't win.
Yeah, something worked. We have a Fred and George adventure creatures deck. So kind of like the standard, I'm going to play random adventures on you and make it very difficult for you to play the game. And then my little creatures that deal like 0 damage because they're all little are going to close it out eventually. I do think that it's a little bit harder to play this in the current age because of all of like the really, really good adventures that we've banned. Just like super good generic ones. Like you've lost Escaping the Dursleys, you lost Letters from No One, Hagrid Needs Help.
Yeah, just a bunch of stuff. So this deck was more like a speed bump that stop you from doing your thing, as opposed to kind of like the previous lock style deck that it used to be, especially with all of like Scribbler and whatever else we banned like 2 years ago. With all that going too, like this deck was just so different than normal. The speed bump was enough to slow down my deck because my deck already was just not doing great. But in general, like it put enough speed bumps in the way that I thought it still had some feet. Maybe it just didn't have enough.
I thought the 4 of the baby Acromantula was was pretty interesting, having that creature there and just
Yes.
be able to continually get more and more. I thought that was pretty nice since you don't need that much damage, just kind of consistency that
Yeah.
added to it.
Like you draw 1 baby Acromantula and suddenly you have 4 of them.
Yeah, and Spider Swarm. which is awesome. And Carter's talked about this before too, that the reason that he plays like 4 Ancient Runes third year, the babies, the porcupine, is that he just wants to make sure that he's getting that he's thinning his deck to get to the creatures that are going to do the damage. That way he has that consistency on board. So when he's built this deck before, he's just talked about that a lot. What can I do to search my deck, thin it out, and then make sure I'm always cantripping as much as possible if that's something that he needs to do. So he's refined it over time more and more. We may be the reason that the deck is getting crippled more and more. But I don't see us taking anything else out of this deck in the future. I think we're pretty comfortable with like the adventures that we have and whatnot. So hopefully the deck's not hit anymore.
Yeah, and it could also just been like not the best meta read in with Through the Arch into a lot of the higher decks. Well, I guess we'll get to that in the end, but I think that Morph's deck in first place is barely running any spells at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it like kind of doesn't really care that you played Through the Arch on it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Through the Arch later too, because that was an interesting card in this tournament.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, overall it was an interesting deck, and I love seeing these decks refined every tournament. And sometimes they like skip a tournament and then come back, but just like continually like piecing out one thing and putting in one new thing is just cool to see too.
Moving on, fourth place, we have our
resident corridor deck.
Yeah, comes every tournament. Rubius Hagrid, Forbidden Corridor, Hermione's Time Turner. Definitely one that we've seen be iterated upon over and over through the past tournaments. We've been taking it many, many times.
So actually, going off of what I just said about the previous deck, that it's nice to see these decks just get like tweaked over and over. Do you think that this deck might be suffering from people are just so used to it now that they've learned how to play around Corridor? No, really. And like they know what the threat is, and they're like, I need to build my deck to be able to potentially counter that. And then in gameplay, I just know how to work around that too.
Yeah, but hopefully your deck is like, getting better and you're adapting it for what you expect the meta to be. Never mind. The meta is very, very hard to guess in these small tournaments because there's like not enough data. There's like people just throw things together the night before.
Personal attack there, but it's fine. So interestingly, back in February of 25, so the beginning of this year, this deck actually did get first place. And then it's kind of hovered around that like 3 to 4 in the tournament since. So it's just interesting to see that change as well.
I haven't actually been keeping like really, really close track of the deck list, so I don't think I can say what's like changed between the things. Seeing like no double-headed newts anymore and moving to mice to snuff boxes as like our creature hate card, which is very interesting. This is not a card that I thought would be seeing a lot of play. And then we have like this charms splash with 1 charms lesson and 1 campfire stories, and I believe that is all the charms.
Yes.
There's also a potion splash for some misbrewed polyjuice and
yes, in the sideboard. Yeah. A lot of character hate. Very interesting.
I mean, Misbrew did a lot of work for me last tournament.
I'd be curious to know if it did a lot of work in this tournament with 2 ways to make potions, lessons, full moon and 1 potions, and then 4 in the sideboard. Definitely a spicy choice, if nothing else.
It was a spicy choice, yes. So overall, we'll see what this deck does in the future. But yeah,
I'm sure it'll come back.
I hope it does. It's a cool deck, and we just need to keep tweaking it a little here and there. And but the next 2 decks are both starting first-time starters, which is super exciting. One of them is Griffin's, but we'll talk about the 3rd place deck first, which is Ludo Bagman. So it was cool to see a new starter in Ludo. And Ludo essentially lets you draw 3 cards if an opponent drew more than 1 card during their last turn. So it's a bit of like a value engine of sorts, I guess.
I think it can be really punishing for your opponent if they try not to draw more than 1 card, because sometimes you just need more cards to win the game. It's kind of hard to live off of 1 card a turn, unless your deck is doing something very, very strange. So Ludo's probably going to proc like pretty consistently, and you can also make Ludo proc like forcibly if you'd like to. This deck is running Lantern Lit Trail, another QWF card, to make your opponent be forced to draw equal to the number of different lesson types they have in play.
Yeah, they had Gifts of Gold, Lantern Lit Trail, Yeah, which was just cool.
Winky's Empty Seat, Delight of the Death Eaters, Canon Pride, and Campfire Stories. That's a lot of QWF. This is like half QWF. That's
No.
pretty cool.
It was quite the interesting deck. It did decently well too, which is cool. I did not play against this. Did you play against this, Griffin?
I did not play against this either, but looking through the deck of how much card draw is happening, there's a lot. I feel like these games with this deck would have gone much faster just because the options that were made available to both players. So I think it'd be fun to see how some of those went, see if they did indeed go fast, because it looks like it would be.
Yeah, and I wonder if this would be more consistent or have like a bigger finisher if they swapped out the potions for Quidditch and put in Spiral Dive. I'm kind of surprised that someone hasn't thought to do that yet, given the Spiral Dive love or whatnot. But I think the deck has a lot of like the good roots here. I think that Spiral Dive might just be like a good answer because it looks like they have a VTJ, which is like getting to kind of a finisher spot, but maybe that's just not enough of a finisher.
They have 2 grip hooks as well.
Yes.
I just don't think that Spiral Dive is enough by itself. It's like how much do you want to dedicate to ending the game? And if the answer is I only want to dedicate exactly like 2 card slots in my deck to ending the game, which is VTJ plus like a way to recur VTJ if it gets milled or something like that. Because Spiral Dive, you have to put in like 2 Spiral Dives and then you have to put in some extra damage sources, which this deck does have Campfire Stories. Campfire Stories does deal damage, but I'm not sure if those 2 cards are like enough to kind of end the game, even with Grip Hook there.
Possibly. Griffin, I think it was you a couple of months ago. You posted a deck in Discord that was all about, I think you started Fleur's sister, and it was like...
Gabrielle?
Yeah. Was this you?
Yes, this was me. Yeah, I posted the deck where it was Gabrielle, and it was, half the deck was lessons, and you just discard it, draw a whole bunch of cards, and then you just Apparicium into
that's right,
the Calamity to just discard all your potions and just do a one shot.
I've had a couple versions of decks like that in the past. I think my first version was just Harry Potter, the original person. That,
like OG? Wow.
OG Harry Potter, like
that's a
action
choice.
To draw 2 cards. We didn't have Gabrielle back then.
But it's interesting because we did a podcast episode. I think the last one was about like your deck as a resource and kind of what that means. And Griffin's deck and then this Ludo deck are both using your deck as a resource and then trying to do like some kind of big damage. And I would be very curious to see like this deck get refined more or Griffin's deck get defined more and like see one of those come to the tournament and like win it, to see somebody be like, I can win with 1 card and then like get themselves down to nearly dying and then still win. Like that would just be super cool. So like we're starting to see this type of deck a little more and hopefully it just keeps going and growing.
I don't know if I really want to see like an Apparicium Cauldron Calamity deck be good. Unfortunately, like the play pattern is just so boring. It's like I'm just going to get to 5 lessons and then draw out every single card I can possibly draw and then hope that it's enough to win the game.
I will admit, after playing that Apparicium Calamity deck about 8 or 10 times though, I have kind of put it on the shelf because I was like, okay, I've done the thing. There's no other thing to do with the deck.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So the play pattern is just not very engaging when it's like, this is the only way my deck can win, and my deck has to do this, and I just hope that I go faster than my opponent.
So I think instead of Spiral Dive, there could be some other discard outlets because you're drawing so many cards, like, Fire Whiskey, or some other things that you can consistently do because you're drawing so many, just to discard to pitch to do removal or do some extra damage. And then the opponent drawing so many cards is not that big of a deal because you always have these answers.
Yeah, and there's also Bagman's Gamble, which you could like pair with your lesson draw deck and pair with this deck because it has the charms and like I think there are some different avenues there. Whether you did like we're getting like 4-color deck now at this point. This is just it's too much. But there's some cool jank. Somebody's gonna do some cool jank with 4 colors and drawing their deck.
Lantern Lit Trail just gets better.
Yeah, it really does. Or do you play Secret Keeper, draw your whole deck, and you're just like, I'm put my whole hand back into my deck, and then just do it again,
and then
lose.
What have you accomplished?
Nothing. You did a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna draw my deck and then put it back into my deck.
Yes, but yeah, so really cool deck. We'll see if that continues. But let's talk about Griffin's deck.
All right, so The deck starts Moody, and Moody you get to discard or you get to take 4 damage to play a spell that costs 4 less for free. And that ability with Moody just resonated with me because I get to do stuff for free. I get to put stuff in discard, and I kind of built the deck going from there. I looked through a whole bunch of cards, found Dizzying Workload, and then I was like, what is the biggest thing I can play? And, I mean, that's generally the thought process, right? Ooh,
Yeah.
Dizzying Workload. What is big? What is the appeal? And then I found a Braxton. I was like, okay, get stuff back. I'm already putting stuff in the discard pile. And then kind of everything else fell in there after that. Like core was identified. And the advanced lessons were a huge help in getting lessons in the discard for Dizzying Workload, playing a whole bunch of tempo spells or some removal or bounce like Depulso or the Trespasser. Well, Trespasser, if you do with Moody, you do take 8 damage, which can be a lot. If you play 2 of them, you can get 2 Braxtons out on turn 3.
That's a lot. That's a lot of damage.
So, but the deck is so much. When I played it, it was so much fun to play. Everything is happening because often on turn 2, like I'm already doing, like I'm casting 4 or three cards. I'm putting so much stuff into the discard pile. There's just so much happening with the deck. It feels amazing, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. When we talked about your deck as a resource, this is really your deck as a resource.
Absolutely.
You are definitely killing yourself.
Yes.
To like churn through your deck, to add lessons into your discard pile, add creatures into your discard pile so you can Halloween feast them back. Like your discard pile is your toolbox. That's a really cool thing to see in a deck.
Yeah. There was the idea about, okay, I have all this stuff in the discard. I got to make sure I get it back. And as you said, the Halloween Feast is there. There's a one of Hermes to get back, a workload if I need it or any other spell and all that stuff. And the advanced lessons, two of the advanced lessons fetch transfiguration lessons. And that is to help with the sideboard, because in the sideboard I have 1 transfig lesson, 1 Ollivanders, and 1 Philosopher's Stone.
Okay, so question, how often did you get to play like a Braxton, Philosopher's Stone if you did sideboard it in, like these big things? Because I love this strategy.
Well, I'll do the Abraxan one first. Every game that I played, I had an Abraxan.
Wow, that's pretty consistent. Okay.
I mean, if you're not playing Abraxan, you're probably not winning with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every game, and I'll say this, every game I doubled Abraxan in a turn.
That's pretty good.
There was a couple turns where I did a single Abraxan. There was one game where I played 6 Abraxans.
That's certainly something.
And there was one game where I played 3 Abraxan in one turn.
Wow.
I would have been able to play 4 Abraxan in that turn if I had the 4th in my hand, but I did not.
That's what Leprechaun is doing there.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Correct. The Leprechaun is to help with the extra actions, because if I'm too low, if I've taken too much damage with Moody, I need an extra action to play the workload. So it's to help give the workload, or to play an extra creature if I have it, or maybe to do something else. Like if I need to remove something first, like if someone has a Azkaban out, I can remove it and then continue to play my double Abraxan. So it's to help with getting around some stuff, be very flexible.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. And I love that you got Moody to work in a, so when we designed Moody, I think what men designed him actually.
Yes.
And I was just I don't
okay.
know what this card is doing. I'm like so confused by this, and it's gonna be bad. And I just didn't know like where to put it. And I think you found a really interesting way to use him to like do Moody stuff, but not do Moody stuff. And it's a really cool package.
Yeah. And then to answer the question on the Philosopher's Stone, I brought the Philosopher's Stone in on 2 different matchups. One was against the Corridor deck, right? Because it's very slow, very kind of controlling. I have a lot of time to get there. And then one was against Morph's deck, the first place deck. And when I went against the Corridor deck, game 3, I had the stone and it was already in the discard pile, and the Ollivanders was already in the discard pile. So I had to do this very long chain of fetching and tutoring and searching to get it. So I had to play Egg to get Hermes. I had to Hermes to get Ollivanders.
Oh my God.
Ollivanders to get the stone. And then I played the stone and discarded it and shuffled everything back. And the very neat thing about the stone with the advanced lessons is once all the advanced lessons go into play, every single lesson out of my deck came out.
Because
So
you have 11 advanced lessons and 13 actual lessons, which
yeah,
is an insane like ratio
yeah,
of
it
advanced
is.
to non-advanced.
It is a lot. And so every single lesson that wasn't advanced came out of the deck. And so my draws after Philosopher's Stone were just nonstop good stuff.
That's really cool.
Also, I want to add that like you actually just don't have enough lessons in your deck to hardcast Philosopher's Stone. That's how few like actual lessons are in there.
There was clearly one goal, and it was workload, and it
Mhm.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome. And I think you're potentially one of the first decks to use Philosopher's Stone as well.
I want to
Or
say that like one
oh,
of
last
Carter's
last
newer
tournament there was one.
deck. There was one last tournament.
Yeah,
Oh,
it got
well,
fifth place. We have to go back and look at the deck, but yeah. So you made Moody work, you made Stone work, like it's all really cool.
Yeah. I had when I went up against the Dip It deck, I had four Slanderous Article in the side. I had it and I played it, and they revealed their hand and discarded their entire hand. It was such
Oh,
a
that hurts.
swing. And I was like, oh, okay, this was correct. And it was pretty brutal for them after that.
Yeah, that would be that would wreck them. Maybe I should
Yeah.
have put that into my deck. I didn't even think about that. Maybe I'll
yeah,
sideboard
they
that now.
definitely kind of brutal against character decks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
yeah, that
I
Pay
was
three, make your opponent discard their hand. Pretty good.
Yeah, especially if with doing it on a free action with Moody, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's even more backbreaking for them.
Mm.
There is a consideration to bring it in against the corridor lock as well,
Hmm.
because
hmm.
locations and the time turner and Madame
Yeah.
Pomfrey are all unique, but I went for the stone instead. Turned out to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
don't, if like you crack stone, it's just kind of over for the corridor deck because you now have like 15 lessons. Sorry, not even 15. You only have 13 lessons in play. But you'll have 13 lessons in play to just toss to the corridor. And it's
Yep.
like you don't actually care that your lessons are getting tossed. So
Yeah, my deck kind of went very well against corner because lessons in the discard still give me a power with dizzying workload.
Mhm.
The item that I was getting back with Abraxan was the standard book of spells, grade 4, so I could play
Mhm.
that and get a lesson back. So I had
Yeah.
two more things to discard to corridor. So it was a somewhat comfortable matchup.
I think definitely, or probably just like pretty favored for this into corridor.
I will say there was a consideration to not run Philosopher's Stone and have all the advanced lessons not be searching for Transfiguration, but be searchable for potions.
Mhm.
And the potions card would be Invisibility Potion.
Mhm.
So I could just keep doing it and playing it. And all the Abraxans I have in play now, you just can't touch.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Especially because there's like none of like the kill all creatures cards are really played. We saw someone had a coral, I think, and that was like it for things that can get through invisibility potion and get rid of your Abraxans.
Yeah,
And like
but that's a
people can't really take 12 that many times in a game.
yeah, so much. Yeah,
Uh,
awesome deck.
yeah, and congrats on second place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we have one more deck on the docket, which is first place. We have Hermione Spewfounder searching up Sir Cadogan to play basically cards that don't let you play the game.
My nightmare of a deck to play against.
Yeah, which is kind of fitting that we talked about lock decks a little bit ago. This one is trying to just play Azkaban on you, play Fogas, and say you actually just can't play one type of card for the rest of the game. Because I'm just going to use one action to fire whiskey you and wait until Campfire Stories kills you.
Yeah, pretty much. Campfire Stories, Fire Whiskey. Yeah. And I saw Fire Whiskey, I think I played against this or I was watching a game and they use Fire Whiskey once to heal and once for damage. I'm not sure what they did for the rest of the games, but if for at least once, they did use it in various ways.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes like they have a board state that is kind of favorable for them, and like you can't actually answer it currently, so you just stall out the game, play your 12 years in Azkaban, fire whiskey to heal, wait until drawing the sword comes into your hand, and then wipe their creatures.
Yeah, when I went against this deck, in the finals, the first game, there was a bunch of confusion about who's doing what, so there was not a lot of surety on what to name with Azkaban, and that kind of had a bit of advantage for me, and so I put out a Braxton super early, and game one went my way, and then game two, And this is where sideboarding is hard. And
Yes, it is.
it didn't really make the connection that, oh, this is a control, this is a lock deck, so they're going to have the arch. And I was like, well, they didn't have it in their main, so I'm going to just remove my Flitwick Charms Masters and not bring any in the side.
Yeah.
And then game 2, they played 3 through the arches.
Oh, that's rough. Three in a row is rough. Ironically, that's what I did to Morph in our final game last tournament. Was I played 3 in a row? That's funny.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I solved it. Man, I could still win. 2, I was like, this is backbreaking. I don't know if I can win. Then 3, I was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's really rough.
And then
you took out your answer to through the arch, and then he put in 4 through the arch.
Yeah,
that's
and
not great.
No, it was just a terrible decision on my part. And then game 3, I was like, okay, I brought them all in. And then I had Flitwick in my opening hand. I was like, great. I had, I think, only 2 lessons in it. It's like, I'll keep it. It'll be fine. And played it. He couldn't use his arches, which was great. Then I had to use, I want to say, about 4 actions just to draw cards because I did not draw any lessons for about 3 turns.
Oh, that's the worst.
And even though I have so many, it happens. And that just caused me to lose the game. Plus, by the time I had stuff, he already had the lock, and I was like, well, that's it.
Yeah, if you Azkaban names creatures and then plays Foglass, there's kind of hard. You have to kill Azkaban or Foglass, and if you do, like, you can just play another one.
One thing that I've noticed, and I just looked real quick, so Spew has been in 3 tournaments. They were in the last 2, but then in the 2 before that, they were played. And Spew has placed in all the tournaments it's been in the top 3. And so I just think it's interesting, and there's been a lot of like casual games played where Spew is a starter. You can remove whatever character Spew is pulling out of the deck. So in this case, it was the Knight. Previously, it was Rubius Hagrid. And you can remove them, but despite Spew continually showing up in like casual games and then tournament games, I'm not seeing many decks run a character destruction piece. Most decks are kind of just ignoring it. And I wonder how good Spew would be if people started teching against it.
2 of those Spew have been to get Cadogan. So
yes,
maybe Spew Cadogan is the way.
Possibly.
And then the last one was what were they searching with Spew for that deck?
Well, Griffin looks like you played 1.
I played.
Which was Cadogan. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was the Spew
Cadogan.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was the.
Oh yeah,
Spew with Fat Lady, and then get all the creatures and
all the Quidditch, Gryffindor Quidditch characters, which was definitely very interesting deck to see.
Yeah,
beating out Frizz's amazing deboning deck that sat there and does now
and did nothing.
Does not exist.
Yep,
because it should not exist.
For the better, yes, for the better. Overall, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff this tournament. It was cool to see 2 new starters, some new like types of decks. It was just really cool overall. But let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about some of the new cards that have been played in this tournament, both kind of new cards and then Quidditch Real Final cards, and just explore that a little bit.
For new starters, we talked about them a little bit. Ludo Bagman, Lester Moody, definitely very interesting decks. One was like that turbo draw. I'm gonna keep drawing and you're going to keep drawing and hopefully I VTJ grip hook you. And the other was Griffin's Moody deck that dizzying workloads out some random thing that is very big, usually a Braxton.
I think both of those starters are interesting because they give you, they don't give you an action directly, but they give you an action's amount of value, like drawing 3 cards or playing a spell. So I think they both did well as a starter.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious if we'll see, I think that's a great way to frame it, that they're giving you an action's worth of value without giving you the action, with Omnioculars kind of lurking in most sideboards or as like a threat. Maybe we'll see more of these types of starters pop up, and which would be a cool shift.
Which I think is why Cadogan works so well, going back to him, is because he also gives you that action's amount of value.
We also saw like no extra action characters as starters in this tournament, which is like, maybe we went too far with Omnioculars. I don't know. Maybe people are just scared of a card that they shouldn't be scared of. I don't know.
I mean, people really haven't played Seamus, I feel like, in a hot minute. And then Angelina just isn't fast enough for tournaments. So it really just leaves Draco. There really also weren't tons of like item other than mine, which I should have ran Draco, not Arthur. But there really just weren't many like item-based decks. It seemed like everything else was doing a little bit of like a combo-y thing or some
Yeah.
kind of like lock. So it just item decks just weren't really a thing. Maybe it's Omni, maybe it's not. But the other characters that were new to this tournament were Flowig Charms Master, not as a starter, but actually in the deck itself, which
Mm.
was interesting because people were choosing to run it as a tech against Through the Arch, which we can talk about Through the Arch now if we want to a little bit, because I think that's why we saw Charms Master as a sideboard piece. So Charms Master will get around Through the Arch, and Through the Arch was played in 5 out of 8 decks, and it just stops spells. It's very strong. It's, I think, what helped me win the last tournament was stopping the Quidditch spell deck with them. So it's just overall a really good card. So it was cool to see Flitwick in a different position than he's normally in, even though it surprised me to see him there.
There's a couple other cards and adventures that Fluid Charms Master gets around as well. Things say you must use your first action to do this, or you can't use your first action to do that.
Yeah.
Flitwick says, I don't care. You can do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's very strong.
Plus, he provides a power, which is also just a great benefit.
And I'm going to talk about another card that was in a lot of decks, the Pulso. That seems to be one of like the premier removal pieces. Well, guess what? It can't hit characters. Your characters are safe. You develop Flitwick Charms Master, and then you kind of just don't have to worry.
Yeah, he's just a great tech piece all around. Maybe we'll see him in more tournaments. I don't know.
I mean, as Through the Arch goes up,
Yeah.
Flitwick stocks go up as well.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I love playing spells, and so Flitwick is going to stay by my side for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think it's also like interesting. I was talking a little bit like Morph's deck kind of just doesn't really care about Through the Arch, which also could have been a conscious decision where he was like, okay, I think that this card is going to be played a lot, so I'm gonna pivot towards a less spell-centric deck.
And it worked.
Yeah,
he did very well.
Worked. He took first. Like that's I don't know if you can say anything about first besides it's first.
Yeah, that was great. We also saw Cho Chang in a deck, and I think that was mainly because of the Dip It Quidditch position deck, and she counts as a Quidditch position. So that's like a natural new card. And let's talk about creatures real briefly. So Griffin talked about Abraxan and Leprechaun. And then Billywig was also a new card played, which was an interesting include too.
I mean, it kind of just makes sense, right? You care about lessons in your discard pile. Play Billywig, discard a lesson, draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
That's what Billywig does, right? Or is that the when it dies, draw a card?
No, when you play it, you discard and draw 2.
Yeah.
With Billywig, it was in there for me in the deck because it can put a lesson in the discard, apply some early pressure, maybe get out like a creature removal before Braxton comes down, however unlikely that is. But it also just refills the hand because when you're playing spells for free with Moody, you run out of cards in hand kind of quick. So
yeah, that third action without some extra draw, it can be rough.
And I did notice your deck like doesn't actually run very much card draw. Most of it is recycling from your discard pile with like Mysterious Egg, Halloween Feast, Hermes.
Some of the new charms cards, one of them was Winky's Empty Seat, which just helps damage when you draw a bunch of cards. So that I think probably fit into the Ludo deck quite well. And then we had Unplottable. Unplottable helps to protect your adventures. And then Delight of the Death Eaters was also in there. And this was a card that I have started playing kind of since this tournament. I did not run it because I was mono charms. I think we talked about this potentially last podcast as well, but just a card that costs 5 that can remove 3 different card types is really, really strong and flexible. So I think this card will show up more as long as people play potions because it's just so good.
2 damage is like not that big of a cost to play.
No, it's so small, especially in potions. Like just heal it.
Yeah, especially with Campfire Stories and a bunch of other events coming out. I feel it's definitely going up in value.
Oh yeah. And then we had a bunch of other draw stuff, like we talked about Lantern Lit Trail, which is draw, Gifts of Gold, which is draw, and then Griffin talked about Workload, which is a cool card, and I'm excited to see now that you've kind of like opened that door, what other people think to do with it, because I think it could do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I would say you don't have to turbo dump stuff in your discard like I am with Moody. You can just run some advanced lessons, and it'll fuel that pretty easy.
Like naturally over the course of the game.
Oh yeah.
Seeing Workload is just going to get better because your opponent is attempting to dump your deck into your discard pile. And when your deck gets dumped into your discard pile, hey, look, there's lessons in there.
Which
That
is
that
really
reminds me, there
cool.
was a neat interaction where there was some lesson destruction and removal that was happening, and I
Mhm.
had 3 lessons, but I had 11 or so in my discard,
Mhm.
and so I just dizzying workload with 3 lessons on the field to play an Abraxan. Just it was
That's
just very
really
surprising,
cool.
like, oh
You just hard casted it, right? Like didn't even use Moody.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's nice to have extra actions to take advantage of like the turn-wide discount, but sometimes you just play it to play a card. And if that card is a Braxton, like sometimes that just wins you the game.
So there are lots of cool new cards to go along with some of the decks. Lots of Quidditch World Finals cards were new, which is not surprising because it's the most recent set. Goblet of Fire still had some new cards too, which was cool. The
Mhm.
oldest new card was from Adventure at Hogwarts, actually. Played for the first time in one of the tournaments, which is just like a draw card. So it was cool to see like a little bit of the original 5 cards still trickle in here and there as people are like,
Mhm.
oh, this weird synergy, or it's just costed really well, or whatever that reason is.
So I find it interesting to look at how people evaluate the cards from sets. Now that
Mhm.
they've been able to play some casuals, they've played in tournaments, and like this card works, this card doesn't work, and now that the honeymoon period is over for the set, people
Yeah.
kind of go back into their normal decks they're playing, and so I put together just some statistics to help realize the Quidditch World Finals cards, and they were in 6 of 8 decks this tournament versus 7 of 8 decks. So still showed up almost everywhere. There were 16 unique cards across all the decks, which is a sizable portion of the set. And the last tournament there was only 18 cards, so it went down by 2, but that's still good
Mhm.
showing
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
those cards across all of the decks in the tournament, and I think really shows the power and how people really like these cards. So I just want to give props to you guys for the designing of it, because I think that's a very strong showing for that
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. No,
Except
that's
for
great to
me.
hear that it's
I
being
mean,
used.
though I wasn't actually very involved with the QWF design team, so you can throw those props to Justin and
Justin Riss.
Riss. Yeah.
There you go. And then
So,
we talked about it a lot, but the campfire stories was in
mhm.
the most decks. It was showed up in 3 different decks.
Which I think is just cool. So how do I want to say this? So we made events and POA, I think is when they first came out.
Yes.
And there's been like one or two here or there that like have kind of stuck. And they're usually like a card that sits there and waits for some type of trigger to happen and then gives you some kind of value or whatever. And
Mhm.
we've seen like 12 Years in Azkaban is a pretty popular one. And then, one or two others. So it was cool to see campfire stories. Either people think it's worth the discarding from their hand, or the draw is worth it, or the damage, like whatever it is about it that people really liked. I'm glad that it was able to show so much and do so much.
I think
Yeah.
it's just like a very flexible card. You can pay what you want for it. That's really strong. It provides you with cards. It's like an engine card when your hand's slow. That's pretty strong.
Yep.
And then when you don't need those cards anymore, it just functions into your like end game, I'm
Yeah.
going to kill you now card, which
Yeah,
is also very strong.
I
Yeah.
think it flows very well with just the natural, flow of the games. Like, okay, early I'm building up stuff, and then the end, I want to win. I'm going to deal damage, and the campfire
Mhm.
stories design just aligns with that. So
Definitely not like the card I think I would have expected from QWF to be super like played, but
Mhm.
looking back, yeah, it seems kind of natural that decks are displaying this card. Seems good. Cool design. Props to other people on the design team that are not me.
And it's interesting to see that 3 Omnis were played in the last tournament, and there was only one this tournament. But as you
Mhm.
said previously, it seems like the fear of Omni has shifted what cards people are playing, particularly like Draco Malfoy is not being played as
Mhm.
the starter this tournament. So the effects of so many are definitely felt.
Ripple effects. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing we'll talk about are some surprises that we noticed during the tournament, just with some cards that were played and kind of our thoughts on that. So the first thing we'll talk about, and we mentioned this already, but Through the Arch was played in 5 decks. So it was one of the most used cards in this tournament, along with Argus Filch was also used in 5 decks. So
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense because Argus
wow.
Filch counters adventures. And ironically, we've seen this shift. So Madame Pomfrey is one of the like can go into whatever deck type of starters because it heals you for 12. It's a character, so it doesn't require any kind of lesson. And she's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. I don't know why, but she's definitely ran less than she used to be. Like only one deck ran her this tournament. Whereas Filch has either remained pretty steady or increased in numbers in terms of like how many decks are playing him. So he's catching her in terms of most played card, which is just an interesting kind of trend to watch over the past couple of years.
I think like talked about in the previous podcast
Mm-hmm.
where it's like paying 2 actions to heal 12. If you're not like doing anything interesting with that, you're sometimes not even treading water. I think as decks get like more tuned, damage and progress towards winning the game is like slowed down less by a Pomfrey hit. So I think when decks were less optimized and like people had a less deep understanding of the game, I think like yeah, healing 12 can be kind of backbreaking because, oh, my deck is not efficient enough to keep up the pressure through that. But I think at this point, like, it's just not enough.
And then also, I think in last tournament it was, maybe it was this tournament, I was playing against somebody who had a faux glass and
Mhm.
I was doing enough damage. And the only way to like kind of combat me doing so much damage was to play Pomfrey, which then
Mhm.
negated faux glass. And so I
Yeah.
think some of the decks too are being built in such a way that spending 2 actions is just not what they want to do. So I think
Yeah.
Pomfrey is still super strong, but for the reasons you said, and then like it's kind of it's not interacting well with what decks
Mhm.
want to do, that it's just kind of falling out of
Yeah,
favor. But
that's true.
interestingly, to your point, we're not really seeing many other healing cards pop up either. So
Mhm.
it's just an interesting thing to watch this trend. We'll have to see what happens in 2026 with her.
She might be dethroned as the most played.
She
Is
may
it most
be.
played card or most played character?
Just most
Currently,
played character. The most played card is
character.
still, I
Yeah.
believe, Black Bat. Oh
What
no,
a
sorry.
classic.
Picking on Neville and then Pomfrey through the arch, Argus, Black Bat.
Classic. Which
Yeah.
there was like very little picking on Neville this
There's so
tournament.
little, yeah. There was one deck.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me, especially because Transfig seems to be pretty popular still.
Yeah, five decks ran Transfig, only one did picking on Neville.
Okay, ran Transfig. Griffin's deck sure did
What?
run Transfig.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to count that towards
It
that
does. It counts.
statistic. Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
like there were 6 decks that ran Charms, uh, which actually is kind of wild that Charms is the highest. Like it has
Yeah.
perennially been Transfig. If we look at the last tournament, I think it was what 6 out of 8 were Transfig, and then there were like 3 Charms decks, and they were the last 3.
Yeah, it's weird to see that shift.
Yeah, and then now we have 6 Transfig, and then or sorry, 6 Charms, and the first 3 decks are all Charms.
Maybe Charms is just catching up finally, and it's
Yeah.
just stronger.
Maybe. Or maybe it's small sample size. I just looked at the tournament before last and it was Charms winning that one and
Hmm.
also kind of everywhere in that set. So
Yeah.
might just be the ebb and flow of things.
Could be. But there were also half of the decks ran Depulso, which, as you mentioned a couple minutes ago, is one of the top charms cards to just get rid of your opponent's stuff. So I think as like that removal becomes better and Depulso either gets better or maybe it'll get worse, who knows? Charms may become more favorable just because of that too.
Yes, but also like it is kind of like premier removal, but it's also it doesn't hit characters and it doesn't hit adventures. And sometimes like you need it to hit characters and adventures, especially if those are, as we talked about Ludwig's Charmed Master, he kind of shuts down your tech pieces against that deck. And if
True.
your interaction for your opponent actually can't get rid of their interaction for you, you're now not in a great space. So maybe we'll see like a shift away from Depulso as people kind of get more used to it and try to play around it.
Possibly. But Charms also had the most new cards out of any of the colors with 7, which was really cool. And
Mhm.
interestingly, Transfig had no new cards. So either the Transfig pool has been used because it was one of the most popular colors, or it's just not as interesting, or people aren't really on top of like that type of play. There's many, many reasons.
I do think that one of them is that the transfig color in Quidditch World Finals is like it's kind of self-contained and it's kind
Yeah.
of I would say very limited focused.
Yes.
It's made to work with itself within a limited setting of only the set plus the starter packs. for that set.
Yeah, it's just in
And
a weird color.
yeah, so I don't think there's like very many like strong, more universal pieces, whereas Charms in Quidditch World Finals got a lot of card draw, and card draw is kind of just universally good.
Yeah.
Most decks kind of need to draw cards because drawing cards helps you win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like the synergy within Charms in Quidditch World Finals is like more broadly applicable.
Well, thanks, Griffin, for joining us to talk about the tournament since you played in it and had a really cool deck in it. We'll try to keep having people on the podcast to talk about tournament stuff afterwards because I think it's cool to have somebody who played in it talk about it, other than us, obviously. Again, as we said at the beginning, Griffin is working on a really cool play platform. So if you're interested in throwing ideas or just kind of like responding to him when he posts his updates, join our Discord and you can see everything there. We will be having some events in 2026 that will be themed events and then some tournaments as well. So make sure you guys are looking out for that. That will be posted soon as well. And then we are also starting to do maybe like every 3 or 4 months a bracket poll system where we'll choose a particular card type. Right now, it's starters from the tournaments, and we list the top 16 and you have a week to vote and everybody kind of moves up the bracket based on the votes, and then we'll crown a winner for everybody's favorite or what we think is the best starter, or it'll be transfig card or item or whatever we decide for the next bracket. So be on the lookout for that as well. Follow us on all of our socials, and thanks for tuning in. See ya.
Peace.